Hi everybody, it's Mr. Oaks again. So today we're going to build on what we did in the last video where we were multiplying binomials. So today we're going to multiply polynomials. So binomials are polynomials because polynomials literally means many terms. So multiplying binomials is specifically a two-termed expression multiplying another two-termed expression. When we are doing multiplying polynomials, when we talk about that, we're expanding it to include not only binomials but also trinomials or more than two binomials multiplying each other. And I have three examples of that here. So the first one we're going to have is an example of I have a binomial multiplying a trinomial. Okay. So what we have here, 3x minus 4 times x squared plus 6x plus 3. So what we're going to do with this one is I'm going to use the box method again, just to keep things organized. Again, there's always multiple ways we can do this. I could do double distribution. Okay, it wouldn't be called FOIL because I have more than just a first, outer, inner, and last. I have a lot going on here, but I could distribute my first binomial to the second, to the trinomial, and do it that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the box method. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my binomial on the side, and I'm going to have the trinomial across the top. I'm going to do it across the top. So I'm going to divide it in half, and then I'm going to separate this into right here. So in this time, I'm going to have 6 separate boxes. So I'm going to put 3x minus 4 along my left-hand side, and then in this case, I'm going to write x squared plus 6x plus 3 across the top. X squared plus 6x plus 3. And I'm going to do the box method just like I did when I was multiplying the binomials. It's just that now one of my polynomials is a trinomial. So I'm going to start off here, 3x times x squared. So again, I have to remember when I have an x squared and I have no number in front of it, I have to assume that it's a 1. Okay, because 1 times something is just that thing. So I'm going to go 3 times 1, which is going to give me 3. And then I have x times x squared. And if we remember, when we multiply a variable with another variable, we're going to add the exponents. So we have to remember that an x has a little 1, all right, there as its exponent. So I'm going to add 1 plus 2. So I'm going to have x to the third power, or x cubed. I'm going to go straight across. 3x times positive 6x. So first I'm going to do the numbers. 3 times 6 is 18. And then I have an x times an x. Again, something times itself is squared. So we're going to have 18x squared for our second term. And I'll even put the plus so we have that there. And then lastly we'll have here 3x times 3. Multiply the numbers together. 3 times 3 is 9. And then we just have the 1x, so we throw that on there. So across the top of this box we have 3x to the third power, 18x squared, and 9x. So then we move down along the bottom. So I'm going to do negative 4 times x to the second power. Again, a number times a variable. We're just going to take those two things, put them next to each other. So this is going to be a minus 4x squared. Okay? And if you look, our like terms are diagonally across from each other. Okay? So then we do negative 4 times 6x. Negative times a positive is going to be negative. 4 times 6 is 24. We only have that one x, so we have x. Again, diagonally my like terms. Lastly, negative 4 times 3. Negative times a positive is negative. 4 times 3 is 12. So now what we're going to do is, see my 3x to the third, there, I have 18x squared minus 4x squared, so 18 minus 4 is a positive 14, as I write that like that, and I bring down the x squared. 9x minus 24x. We're more negative, so our answer is going to be negative. 24 minus 9 is 15x. And then we just bring down the net minus 12. So we wind up with this 4-termed expression. 3x to the third plus 14x squared minus 15x minus 12. Okay? So that's the first one we could come across. We could come across a binomial times another polynomial. Usually what we're going to see is a trinomial, but we could see a 4-term polynomial, a 5-term polynomial, and it's all about the distribution. The next one is I have a trinomial times another trinomial. Negative x squared minus 4x minus 1 times 3x squared minus 4x plus 1. Now, we could do the box method for this. We would wind up with a 3 by 3 box. I'm not going to do that just because I want to do it a different way. Okay? I'm going to kind of do the distributive property, but instead of doing it, the double distributive, I'm actually doing triple distributive. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to take our negative x squared times, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply each term in the second polynomial each time by one of the terms, and we're going to do that as 3 separate steps, but I'm going to also do it so that I'm lining up like terms, so I can kind of keep an order there. Okay, so first I'm going to start with the first term that has the largest exponent. In this case it is our 2. So I'm going to do negative x squared times 3x squared. So I'm doing a negative times a positive. So I'm going to have negative, that's a negative 1 times a positive 3. So I'm going to have a negative 3. Then I have x squared times x squared. Alright, so I have to add the exponents. That's 2 plus 2, which gives us a 4. Now I'm going to take that negative x squared and I'm going to multiply it by this negative 4x. So I have a negative times a negative, which is going to be a positive, and I have, again, 1 times 4, so that's a positive 4, x squared times x. So I have an exponent of 2, adding an exponent of 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So I'm going to have x to the third power. Then I'm going to do negative x squared times 1. Well, 1 times anything is just going to be that something. So 1 times negative x squared is just negative x squared. So I've taken care of this first term. If you want, you can cross it out so you're keeping track of things. Alright, I'm not going to. I'm just going to move on to the next one. So I have this negative 4x. So since I moved over 1, I'm also going to move over 1 in what I'm writing. So what I'm going to write is probably going to wind up here. So I'm going to do negative 4x times 3x squared. So I have a negative 4 times 3. That's going to be a negative 12 x to the first times x to the second. Again, I add the exponents, I get x to the third. So as you see, I have these are lined up. Then I'm going to do negative 4x times negative 4x. That's going to give me a negative times a negative is a positive. 4 times 4 is 16. And then x times x is x squared. Then we're going to move from negative 4x times positive 1. Again, since I'm multiplying by a positive 1, I'm just going to add those. I'm just going to keep the negative 4x. So negative 4x. Last thing, I'm going to move to the negative 1. I move now 2, so I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to line up in the third column. So negative 1 times 3x squared gives me a negative 3x squared. Negative 1 times a negative 4x. Negative times a negative is a positive. And 1 times 4 is going to give me a 4x. And lastly, negative 1 times a positive 1 gives me a negative 1. So now I'm going to kind of do a little, I have my 5 columns. Alright, so I'm going to look at each one and say, well, what am I combining? When I look at this first column, I only have one thing, that negative 3x to the fourth. So I'm going to bring that down, negative 3x to the fourth. Now I look at the second column, these are my x to the third. So I have a positive 4 and a negative 12. I'm more negative, so when I combine them, it's going to be a negative. And 12 minus 4 is 8. X to the third. Move on to the third column. That's a negative 1. That's a positive 16. That's a negative 3. 16 minus 1 is 15. Minus another 3 is 12. So I'm going to have a plus 12x squared. I go to my fourth column. And if we look, I have a negative 4x. I have a positive 4x. They're opposites. They're going to cancel out. So I'm not going to have an x term here. I'm not writing anything. The last thing I'm writing is this minus 1. And this long thing here, that's my answer. Negative 3x to the fourth minus 8x to the third plus 12x squared minus 1. Okay? This is not always going to happen. You will sometimes have it where you completely get rid of one of the variable terms. Maybe I have the thirds cancel out. Maybe this to the second power. You don't know. Okay? It all depends on the problem. Okay? Lastly, we have this. This is multiple binomials. Now you could have a number of different things happen. You could have 2 binomials and then a trinomial. You could have, as you see, 4 binomials. You could have any combination of different polynomials together. But what I'm going to show you to do with this is I'm going to take this and I'm going to just break it down, and I'm going to take it 2 at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take x plus 1 and multiply it by x plus 6. Okay, I'm going to break it into 2 separate problems where it's 2 separate multiplying binomials. And I could do a box method for this one, I could do a box method for this one, I could do FOIL, any of those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do kind of double distributive. So I'm going to do x times x squared times x, which is x squared, x times 6, which is 6x. I'm going to do 1 times x, which is just x, and I'm going to do 1 times 6, which is 6. I'm going to put that in a parentheses. I look, I have like terms middle. I'm going to do x squared 6 plus 1. Remember, there's a 1 there. So you have to add a 1. Plus 6 plus 1. So I have 7x plus 6. So now I have a trinomial here. I can't go any farther with this side. So now I'm going to do the second half. So see, I broke it into two things. So I'm going to do x minus 2 times x plus 1. X times x, x squared. X times 1 is just x. Then negative 2 times x is minus 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Again, my two middle terms are like terms, so I can combine them together. And I have x squared minus x minus 2. So now I change from having 4 binomials to 2 trinomials. So I'm going to multiply them just like I did in the last problem. I'm just going to take it step by step. I'm going to write them out, and I'm going to line up my like terms. So I have x squared times x squared, which is x to the 4th. X squared times a negative x, which is going to be a negative x to the 3rd. X squared times negative 2, which is negative 2x squared. So now I'm going to start here with 7x. 7x times x squared, 7 times 1 is going to be 7. X times x squared is x to the 3rd. Oh yeah. Alright, we keep going. 7x times a negative x is going to be negative 7x squared. Alright, positive 7 times negative 1 is going to be negative 7. X times x, x squared. 7x times a negative 2. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Just bring the x. Now we go with the 6. 6 times x squared is 6x squared. 6 times a negative x is minus 6x. And 6 times a negative 2 is a negative 12. So again, I'm going to separate these into columns. That they're all just like terms. X to the 4th, not combining with anything. X to the 4th. I got a negative 1 x to the 3rd and a positive 7 x to the 3rd. So 7 minus 1 is a positive 6 x to the 3rd. I got 3 things here. I got a negative 2 and a negative 7. Same signs, add them, keep the sign. So I have both a negative, so that's going to be a negative. 2 plus 7 is 9, so that's a negative 9. But then I have this 6. Still more negative, so I'm going to have a minus. 9 minus 6 is 3x squared. Yeah, we're doing good now, yeah. Alright, here, again, negative 14x, negative 6x. Same signs, add and keep the sign. So they're both negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 14 plus 6 is 20x. And then we come here, negative 12 is the only thing. So our answer is this big long thing here. X to the 4th plus 6x to the 3rd minus 3x squared minus 20x minus 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. Okay? So these get pretty big and long. Okay? Alright, well, I hope this was helpful. If you found it helpful, please like the video, subscribe. I hope, as always I say, I hope this was helpful. Please continue learning, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.